You step onto a trail in the middle of a forest, and within seconds, it feels like the entire place knows you're there. A bird suddenly stops singing. A rabbit disappears into the bushes before you even see it. A deer freezes for just a split second, stares directly at you, and then vanishes into the trees as if its life depends on it. Even animals that could easily defend themselves usually choose one thing: to leave. And that's a little strange, isn't it? Because humans aren't the biggest predators on Earth. We're not the fastest. We're not the strongest. A tiger can overpower us. A wolf can outrun us. An eagle can spot prey from nearly 2 miles away. Yet somehow, when wildlife notices a human, the safest option almost always seems to be, don't stick around. So what exactly are they afraid of? Is it our size? Our intelligence? Our weapons? Or is there something much older? Something buried so deeply in nature that almost every wild animal has learned the exact same lesson? Because the truth is, animals don't fear humans because we're simply another predator. They fear us because we're unlike anything evolution has ever seen before. And to understand why, we have to go back. Long before cities, long before farming, long before civilization itself. Imagine the world hundreds of thousands of years ago. No roads, no buildings, no fences, just endless forests, grasslands, rivers, and the creatures that called them home. Back then, danger followed rules. Lions hunted mostly at dawn and dusk. Wolves chased prey across open ground. Crocodiles waited patiently near the water's edge. Every predator had a pattern, and every prey animal slowly learned those patterns over millions of years. If you knew where the lions rested, you avoided that place. If you knew when wolves were active, you changed your route. Nature became a giant puzzle. Survive by understanding the rules. Then, humans arrived, and suddenly, the rules stopped making sense. Our ancestors didn't hunt like wolves. They didn't stalk like cats. They didn't wait in ambush like crocodiles. Instead, they did something almost no other predator could. They kept going, hour after hour, mile after mile. Imagine you're an antelope. You spot a human far away. He's not running. He's barely moving faster than a brisk walk. So you sprint away. A few minutes later, you stop. You look back, and somehow, he's still coming. Not fast, just steady. So you run again. Another mile, another hill, another river. Hours pass. The sun climbs higher. Your body begins to overheat. Your muscles start to burn. You stop once more, and there he is, still walking, still following, never giving up. This hunting strategy is called persistence hunting. Instead of relying on speed, humans relied on endurance. Most animals can sprint much faster than we ever could, but very few can keep moving under the blazing sun for hours without overheating. Humans could. Our ability to sweat, to regulate body temperature, and to cooperate with one another made us something entirely different. Not the fastest predator, the most relentless one. Imagine how terrifying that would look if you were the prey. You're used to predators attacking, failing, then giving up. But these strange, upright creatures, they never seemed to stop. Every time you thought you escaped, they were still there, closer than before. Eventually, running wasn't enough. You had to notice them early, very early. Because once they started following, the odds slowly shifted against you. And here's where evolution quietly stepped in. Think about 2 identical deer. One becomes nervous every time it sees something that vaguely resembles a human. The other ignores it. The cautious deer wastes energy running away. The fearless deer saves energy. Until one day, it doesn't. Generation after generation. The animals that reacted sooner survived a little more often. They raised more offspring. Those offspring inherited the same cautious behavior. Repeat that process. Not for years, not for centuries, but for thousands upon thousands of generations. Eventually, being suspicious of humans became one of the safest decisions an animal could make. Not because every human was dangerous, but because the ones that assumed humans were harmless didn't always get a second chance. And here's the fascinating part. This wasn't happening only to prey animals. Even predators were beginning to learn the same lesson. Wolves, big cats, bears, animals that rarely feared anything, started treating humans differently too. Which raises an even bigger question. If you're already sitting at the very top of the food chain, why would you ever be afraid of us? Because what scientists discovered about that question might completely change the way you see humanity's place in nature. So why would an apex predator, an animal with claws, fangs, incredible strength, and almost no natural enemies, want absolutely nothing to do with a human? At first, it doesn't make much sense. After all, a mountain lion can kill a deer in seconds. A leopard can drag prey heavier than itself into a tree. A wolf pack can bring down an animal several times their size. These aren't prey animals. They're hunters. So why do they often disappear the moment they realize people are nearby? The answer has less to do with what humans are, and more to do with what humans have become. You see, every predator in nature follows a pattern. Lions hunt in prides. Cheetahs rely on speed. Owls attack from above. Crocodiles wait patiently beneath the surface. If you're another animal, eventually you learn those patterns. You know where they're likely to be. You know when they're active. You know what gives you the best chance of surviving. But humans don't play by any pattern. Sometimes we hunt alone. Sometimes we hunt in groups. Sometimes we're loud. Sometimes we're completely silent. Sometimes we chase. Sometimes we wait. Sometimes we use traps. Sometimes we use tools. Sometimes we don't hunt at all. One day we're feeding birds in a city park. The next day, we're exploring a rainforest. And somewhere else, someone is photographing wildlife from 50 meters away. To an animal, there is no reliable rule. And uncertainty is one of the scariest things in nature. Imagine you're a wolf. You hear another wolf howl. You immediately understand what that means. Territory, competition, a possible fight. Now imagine you hear a human voice. What does it mean? Food? Danger? Fire? Weapons? A group? One person? 10 people? The problem is, you don't know. And evolution has a simple answer for things you don't understand. Stay away. Scientists who study animal behavior have a term for this. Risk assessment. Every wild animal is constantly making tiny decisions. Should I eat here? Should I cross this river? Should I investigate that sound? Every decision has a cost. If an animal overreacts, it wastes energy. If it underreacts, it might not live long enough to make another decision. So when something impossible to predict appears, the safest choice is almost always leave first. Ask questions never. And humans have spent hundreds of thousands of years earning that reputation. Think about our history for a moment. We didn't just hunt one species. We hunted almost everything. Large mammals, small mammals, birds, fish, reptiles, sometimes for food, sometimes for clothing, sometimes simply because they threatened our settlements. Very few predators affect as many different species as humans do. We're not specialists, we're generalists, which means almost every animal has had some reason, at some point in history, to see humans as a threat. In ecology, some researchers even describe humans as a super predator, not because we're physically stronger than every animal, but because our impact reaches almost every corner of the planet, from frozen Arctic coastlines to tropical rainforests, from mountaintops to the deepest oceans. Very few places have escaped human influence, and animals have noticed. You can actually see this change happening today. Many mammals that were once active during the day now spend far more time moving at night. Foxes, coyotes, wild boar, even elephants in some regions, not because they suddenly became nocturnal, but because nighttime is when humans are less active. Imagine changing your entire daily schedule, not because of weather, not because of predators, but simply to avoid one species. That's exactly what countless animals have done. Without us realizing it, we've become the clock that many ecosystems now revolve around. But here's something even stranger. If humans are so terrifying, why do pigeons casually walk between our feet? Why do raccoons raid our garbage without a second thought? Why do crows sometimes seem more interested in watching us than avoiding us? As it turns out, some animals haven't stopped fearing humans. They've simply learned which humans are actually dangerous. And that changes everything, because the relationship between humans and wildlife is far more complicated than simple fear. So why do some animals run the moment they see us, while others barely move? Why will a deer sprint into the forest, but a city pigeon practically expects you to walk around it? The answer is surprisingly simple. Animals don't just inherit instincts, they also learn from experience. Imagine living in a city where thousands of humans pass by every single day. Nobody chases you. Nobody hunts you. Some people even leave food behind. After enough generations, being terrified of every human stops making sense. Fear is expensive. Running burns energy. Energy means survival. So if something repeatedly proves harmless, nature slowly turns the alarm down. This process is called habituation. It's one of the reasons urban wildlife behaves so differently from animals deep in the wilderness. A city fox has learned that cars are often more dangerous than people. A squirrel in a public park may ignore hundreds of humans every day because experience has taught it that most of them aren't a threat. But that doesn't mean they've forgotten what humans are capable of. They've simply adjusted the risk. And then there are crows, perhaps one of the smartest birds on Earth. Scientists have discovered something remarkable about them. Crows can recognize individual human faces, not just humans in general, specific humans. If someone captures or harms a crow, that bird can remember the person's face for years. Even more incredible, it can warn other crows. Young crows that never witnessed the event themselves can learn which people should be avoided. Think about that for a second. While many animals rely mostly on instinct, crows pass information through something that looks remarkably like culture. They aren't just surviving, they're sharing intelligence. And in a way, they've become students of humanity. But perhaps the strongest evidence comes from places where humans were almost completely absent. When early explorers reached isolated islands, they encountered birds that simply didn't fly away. Marine iguanas calmly watched people walk past them. Penguins approached researchers out of curiosity. Some island birds could literally be picked up by hand, not because they were tame, not because they trusted humans, but because they had never evolved a reason to fear us. To them, we were just another strange animal. Unfortunately, that innocence often came at a terrible cost. Species that lacked any fear of humans were hunted with astonishing ease. Some disappeared forever. The famous dodo became a symbol of this tragedy. It wasn't unintelligent. It had simply evolved in a world where running from humans had never been necessary. Until suddenly, it was, and by then, evolution didn't have enough time to catch up. This reveals something important. Animals aren't born fearing humans specifically. They fear danger. Humans became that danger because of our actions over thousands of years. Remove the danger, and eventually, the fear fades. Which brings us to one final question. If animals fear humans because of what we've done, what does that say about us? For most of history, we believed humans stood outside nature, separate from it, above it. But the evidence tells a different story. Our presence changes where animals feed, where they sleep, when they travel, even what time they wake up. Entire ecosystems quietly reorganize themselves, simply because humans exist nearby. That's an incredible amount of influence for one species. And with influence comes responsibility. Because every time a wild animal chooses to run instead of staying, it's making a decision shaped by countless generations of survival. Not hatred. Not aggression. Just probability. From that animal's perspective, walking away is simply the smartest choice. So the next time you're hiking through a forest and the woods suddenly become silent, remember, you aren't just another visitor. You're a member of the one species that changed the rules of the wild. The creature that learned to adapt faster than any other. The animal that became so unpredictable that even predators learned caution. In nature, fear is rarely personal. It's simply information passed from one generation to the next. And after hundreds of thousands of years, the message is still being delivered. When humans arrive, pay attention, stay alert, and if possible, disappear before they even know you were there. Because in the eyes of the wild, humans aren't just another predator. We're the species every animal has learned never to underestimate. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the hidden rules of nature, don't forget to subscribe, because the natural world is full of stories that are far stranger than fiction. Until next time.